Summer of 69, do any of you remember that? There's a lot of young people out there. You were not even born. You weren't even a glow in your daddy's eye. I remember the summer of 69. That's when we took my senior trip. And in my senior trip, we went to the sand dunes on Lake Michigan. And there were no parents. And we did crazy things. And the next day, we didn't feel so good. And it's so interesting that that song's being played in light of what we're going to talk about today. Because today I'm going to talk about what the mystics taught. Now, in that song, The Summer of 69, what was the most important thing about that song? It was its energy. It was the energy of the song that just lifted you. You know, you couldn't help but butt shake on that song because there's an energy there. And what the mystics were all about, they were the aspect of each of the religions. The Christians had the Gnostics, the Jewish people had the Kabbalists, the Muslims had the Sufis. So there was always an aspect that was the mystical. And the mystical was that aspect that was the feeling nature. It was the aspect of the teaching that caused you to feel the oneness with all that is. And then what ends up happening with religions, they create all of this dogma around it to control us, and that's not what it was about. If you even just take Jesus real simply, what did Jesus really teach? To know God, to love God above all else, to know that this power and presence was infinite, and it's present right here, right now in each of us. So we have to be able to look at each other, accept each other, realize that we're all individualized expressions of it, and in we're doing that, we're aware that we're doing it, and in that awareness, we're connected to that which is all at all times. In Maui this last week, as I did all the various things that are involved with losing your father, it's about going in, and everyone's going to give you condolences, you know that. And for me, it's very hard to stop when I'm in my doing mode. Does that make sense? I'm there. I've got to get rid of all of my dad's stuff. I've got to get the burial done. I've got to do a memorial. I've got all of this stuff to be done in 4.5 days. But I had to be aware that other people have the right and the privilege to give their love to you in these moments. And you have to consciously choose to put the doingness aside. Does that make sense? So what that really boils down to is getting out of the head and into the heart. And that took a lot of practice. It took a lot of practice. And it was interesting because for my parents and my brother and for myself and Jean, we know that when we die, all we want is to be cremated, put us in a plastic bag, take us to the ocean, and release our ashes. And so that's what we did with my mother, that's what we did with my brother, and then that's what we did with my father. So I've had the honor and privilege of doing 3 memorials of 3 of the people closest to me on the planet and releasing ashes into the ocean. Now, at the funeral home, they wanted me to buy special urns. This urn's love. This urn has so many angles at it. This urn does this. This urn does that. And the thing that I came to, what was going to give me the experience? And you see, it's not the things. It had nothing to do with things do not give you an experience. What is the mental attitude you're taking into it? That's the key thing. That's the mystical approach. So mysticism is the experience of the infinite. That which is greater, and it's incomprehensible to the human mind. It cannot be explained. It can only be experienced. So when someone is trying to define for you very clearly, distinctly, what an experience of the divine is, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. Because I know in my experiences that I've had with the divine, go back to 1999, I'm in Unity Village at a retreat. I'm jogging at 5:30 in the morning. I'm going in the back pass on the golf cart pass on this golf course that's in the back, surrounded by woods. It is pitch black. You cannot see anything. And this is very young in my spiritual growth. And I'm there and I'm talking to God out loud. As I'm jogging, I'm talking to God out loud. I'm saying, hey, buddy, because that's what I called him. I called him buddy. I said, hey, buddy, what's going on here? I need answers. These are the questions that are going on in my life. I want to know, is this my path? And I went on like 4 holes just talking out loud like that at 5:30 in the morning. And then all of a sudden I got still and silent and I ran. And this voice inside me came out clearer than anything and gave me my answers. I can't tell you what I felt. It is beyond my ability to talk to you and use words to describe what that feeling was that came through me, that I knew it was more than, it was the infinite. I can't tell you what it was. I'm only giving you this much of a perspective because that's how much the words can give. When you look into a newborn baby's eyes that you're connected to in some form or fashion, how do you describe that experience? You can't. You can only feel it. That's what you're seeking in life. You're not seeking guys, single guys out there. You're not seeking a girl who looks great in a bikini. That's a side benefit. You're seeking a woman, and I'm using this because I'm coming from a male perspective. You're seeking a woman that sees you whole, sees you perfect, and is willing to give you the freedom to be yourself and support you as you grow and become the greater expression of yourself. Now you can take that now and reverse it. Okay? That's what a woman doesn't care if the guy's got a Speedo. I had a Speedo for a long time. And we were in Maui visiting, and my sons were 15 and 14. And both of them came up to me and said, Dad, would you not wear the Speedo? You're embarrassing us. I went home to my parents' house. I looked in the mirror. I said, that doesn't look bad. But to them, I was the rebel. No one else was wearing Speedos at that time. They were all covered up with these big suits that went everywhere. They weren't very European, shall we say. I don't want to judge it. But anyway, it's an experience. So let's go on. This is what Ernest Holmes says. The great spiritual seers of the ages have taught that man is on a pathway of eternal evolution. Are you hearing that word? You're on a path of eternal evolution. It means you never get done evolving. You're going to be evolving for all of creation and after. And then the purpose of which is to produce in the individual, to produce within you everything that is inherent in the nature of the divine. So the idea is if the divine is infinite, the whole thing is about how do you create in your life, in this infinite nature, everything and experience everything that's possible within the wholeness of all that we call God. Wow! What an adventure we've got. It doesn't end. So why would we try and be stagnant and say, I want things to stay the same? No, we don't. We don't want things to stay the same because our nature is to evolve eternally and to experience everything that's in the infinite nature of the divine. Think about that. I don't ever want to be the same. It was like last night we had our friends Bob and Ann over, and normally we get together, we have a nice dinner, they have their bottle of wine, I have my water, and we talk. Well, last night about 6:30, I hit the wall because I hadn't slept. You know, I was on the red-eye flight from Maui, and then I hadn't slept all day, and I hit a wall. And I said, whoa, it would be rude if I went to bed at 6 o'clock. So I did something. I said, let's make this fun. So I said, come on downstairs. And we went downstairs, and I popped on the big 75-inch TV, turned on the sound bar, and I started playing some music, my favorite songs. And we just sort of listened to them. And then what did we do? We popped on some comedies. We popped on The one, the alien visit with Kate McKinnon from Saturday Night Live. We watched that episode, which is hilarious. Then we watched Bob Newhart. When he did his counseling. Do you know the counseling? He charged $5 for counseling. And it doesn't matter how long you've got. No matter what they say, she would just say, stop it. And she would say, but this is going. He said, stop it. And if you really think about it, those are the greatest counseling words that you could ever get, because the longer you tell your story, the more your story you create. So if you really, what does Ernest Holmes say? Ernest Holmes says, turn away from the condition and focus on what you want. So in other words, when you're focusing on the condition, it's not what you want, you say, stop it. And then we watched the one where he and Harvey Korman were in the dentist chair. Oh my God, it is just the comedy. And so we went and laughed and laughed and laughed. And the reason is I wanted to create a state of laughter which draws people together and go to sleep in laughter. See, we're conscious. You don't have to keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's what I did last night, and it was conscious. I realized I can hit the wall and be a bummer, or I can create something new. Okay? The mystics knew there was no hell. I really want to make this clear. The mystics knew there is no hell. Jesus never talked about hell. He said there are many rooms in my mansion. Meaning there's infinite ways of being in the world. And no matter what you are, there will be an infinite way that you will continue. There was no damnation there. They understood that we're all in a process of evolution and that everyone will eventually end up in the same place. What's the same place? It's not heaven or hell. It's a connection. It's a consciousness of oneness. It's where we realize that we're already whole, we're already perfect, we're already complete. And when we're living from that state of awareness, and we can have that right now on the planet, in this moment, at this time, by being aware of who we are, that we're perfect, and accepting that the people that are with us are perfect in this moment. That's what the mystics were about. As students of science of mind, we must understand this, for while we are surrounded by negative conditions, can you feel the negative around there? Just listen to the news. Even, you know what's really sad? This is just sad. I'm judgmental. It's sad. Sports. Sports are friggin' just sad. Because it's not watching what's happening in sports. They got to create drama about it for months on end. This whole thing about Des Bryant, whether he's going to be with the Cowboys, without the Cowboys, who really cares? Brian Brickman cares. You know Brian Bickman's not that far along his path. I want you to know that right now. Because if he cares about Des Bryant, he's not that far on his path. Brian Brickman should care about who? Brian Brickman. That's the only person. Well, wait a second. I'm sorry. Brian Brickman should care about Brian Brickman, and because he's a newlywed, he needs to care about Stephanie. Okay? But the whole idea is, whatever happened with Des Bryant created. Can I be more clear about that? He created it. How did he create it? Well, the last 3 years, his numbers were not that of a $14 or $15 million receiver. They were the numbers that a $6 million receiver would have. He was not willing to accept that that's what he's created, and what did the Cowboys do? They released him. It's the same thing as the universe. The universe says, do you have a consciousness of a millionaire? If you have the consciousness of a millionaire, you will have $1 million. But if you don't have that consciousness, you're not going to become a millionaire. If you don't have the consciousness of being in an easy and effortless relationship, you're going to be in a relationship that is struggling and hard and difficult. It keeps coming back. The mystics were really clear. You have to develop the consciousness of that which you want, and when you develop that consciousness, you attract that experience into your life. Jesus said so clearly, it is done unto you as you believe. You don't have to read any other words in the Bible. If you just practice those 8 words every moment of every day, you will master a life beyond the greatest spiritual teachers in the planet today. And what you've got is you've got the ability right now to change whatever limiting belief you have about yourself, about life, about this planet, about your body, about your money, about your relationships, about anything. You can change that belief. But that's where your work is. That's where you've got to really put down and say, okay, that means you may have to release people in your life. The more you spiritually evolve, you find people fall away. Because most people aren't evolving the same way. It's not good or bad. Does that make sense? Not good or bad. We're sorry with that condition, which certainly seems evil, but we must understand evil is not a thing. Evil is not a person. Evil is an experience that we base based on our perception. Let's be real clear about that. We view the Taliban and ISIS as evil. Is that not true here in the West? It is. That's what we view them as. We view them as evil. Over there, they view the Americans as evil. Why? We invaded their country. We're trying to impose our democracy upon them. They are not ready for it. That's why there's war. There is no evil, it's perception. What I really want to say is that how do we find a way that we can work together and create a world that works for everyone? This is really the key. How do we find a way that we become the person that sees the world that can work for everyone and allow everyone the ability to have the freedom to create, to choose, to experience life in their unique way? That's the biggest mission. That's one not of consensus. That's not one of compromise. That's one of collaboration. That's where we collaborate as a group, creating a new idea and create something new. So like in relationships, I was taught you got to compromise. Guess what happens? When you compromise, everybody loses and it just sucks. And eventually it just festers, builds up and explodes. Collaboration means you find something new where you both win. And think about it, there's infinite choices out there, so we can always win. Why not? Why wouldn't we strive to be winners? Why do we want to strive to be losers and compromise? I certainly don't. I know there's a new way, but we have to open up to a new way of thinking. The universe is a spiritual system, and we are a part of it. God is right where we are, and we can only discover it at the center of our own being. You do not have to go. I'm going to Tibet in August. I'm going to be with a Guruji who's coming in May. We're going to be on top of Mount Kailash doing sacred rituals, traveling around the mountain. I do not have to go there to find my connection to the divine. My connection to the divine is wherever I'm at. You get that? It's wherever you're at. Right here, right now, you just have to turn in and you will find the connection you're seeking. You don't have to go on a spiritual journey anywhere. You don't have to go to a special meditation place. You don't have to be in Sedona and feel the vortexes. You don't have to be in this. No, that's all nice. But the fact of the matter is, the center of your universe is within your heart. The key thing is we have shut ourselves off from our hearts. We've shut ourselves off from feeling. I was on the plane ride to Maui to take care of my dad's affairs. And so it was a new plane, American, and they had the LCD so everyone could watch whatever movies you wanted. So I watched 4 comedies in a row. 4 comedies in a row, and I cried in all 4 comedies. And I went, what the hell's going on? I wanted to go to a doctor and see if I had too much estrogen. But what I realized was I was raw because I was processing a parent's passing. And in the simple act of comedy, it was freeing. It allowed me to release it, because I think what we do that makes such a mistake in our lives is we hold and we repress things in. And when we hold and we repress things in, sooner or later, it's like a pimple. You hold that pimple in, what happens? It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then one day, there's this massive explosion and the mirror's just covered. You ever been a teenager? Yep, that's what happens. We used to have contests in college. Oh, yeah. You women just don't understand boy humor. Elaine's there like this, the board president saying this. I don't care what she says. So you got to discover God's in the pimple. Did you hear that? God is everything, and we mock that, but it's true. Anyway, this great reality can only be discovered within our hearts, our souls, and our minds. It is our job, this is real important. This came to me meditating 2 nights ago. It's our job is to only experience the divine in all things. It's only to experience a connection in whatever we're doing, no matter who we're with. Even if it's someone that you don't like, that you're having disagreements with, it's about finding that idea and seeing them as perfect. You may not like it, but they're perfect. And our job is to see that. So if you have something going on in your life right now that's causing you pain, how can you see it differently? How can you see the beauty of it? How can you see the benefit of it? How can you see it as a part of God, the part of the divine that is seeking to express itself? And think about this. Anything that you appear to be negative or appears to be challenging is an opportunity for you to open up and see more of the divine, which is your eternal process of evolving and experiencing all that the divine has to offer. So if that's the case, to experience a parent's death is part of what the divine wants you to experience. To experience your own death is what the divine wants you to experience, because you are not your bodies, you have a body. You are not your minds, you have a mind. You are not your emotions, you have emotions. There is something greater than your body, mind, and emotions. That's your soul, which is the most connected thing to the divine, and that soul controls your body. The thing that I used in all of my memorials is simply this, is that when the body no longer serves the soul's purpose of evolution, the soul releases the body so the body can move on and continue its journey. That's what my father did. He released the body. He was in bed. He couldn't do anything. It was no longer serving his soul. He couldn't advance anymore. The soul said, great. Take a deep breath. My father took his last breath, and he passed. Just that easy. Just that easy. It doesn't have to be hard. My mother made it hard. My dad took the easy route. I think my dad had a harder life than my mother had. But I'm not sure. Ooh. So I'm going through my dad's stuff. And it's about the second day. I'm almost complete. And I found this little book. It's about this big, about this thick, and it's all white paper. And it had my mother's handwriting in it. And my mother, if you don't know the story, had breast cancer for 25 years. And she never told her husband for 10. I found out by accident with Jean at 15 years in. She didn't want anyone to know. And in it were things like, this was a really difficult day. I don't know how I can survive. The stress is killing me. And you just felt today was a little bit better. I was able to deal with the stress. The stress was not with cancer. The stress was she was not in a relationship that she was happy in. The stress was she had a son that she should have let go, and she couldn't because she was a mother. And the stress of those two things caused the cancer, and eventually it took her life. And I sat there reflecting on that, asking the question, why didn't she tell me? I could have helped her. But you see, that's a bad question. The question I should be asking, and I did ask, was I a loving son throughout the process? Because I have no control over what my mother did. That's her life. We have no control over anyone else's life but our own. The question I ask is, are you loving and are you lovable in almost every moment that you can imagine? Are you self-accepting in any moment? Because when you are self-accepting, you realize that you are the infinite. And you are here to evolve and to experience the fullness, the wholeness, the allness of all life. And when you realize that, you become the mystic. You become the teacher. and the people will flock to you because your heart is open. You are truly living. You're no longer hiding. You are alive. The question you always ask yourself in any situation is, what would be the highest expression of love that I can be in this moment? Try it out this week. Become a different you. Let's pray.
I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask that you go to our website, agapecsl.com. Once there, click on the donate button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. Or if you would like, text your gift by simply dialing 972-532-6976. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to you in the world. I would ask that if you like this message, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel under my name, Lee Wolak. Again, I want to thank you for joining me in the Agape community as we learn how to better self-love through conscious living.